Hello, I am Jessica Reed-Robbins and welcome to my video series on achieving the impossible. The next thing that we're going to look at is the third filter, which is kind of the one that causes all the problems, essentially, and it's distortion, because this is the most dangerous filter in our perceptual filters, because it operates without us being aware that it's operating. So what we think is reality is often nowhere close to reality. Okay, so there's something now that's really, this is where distortion, this filter really is important that we understand. And it's something called the law of confirmation bias. So if the demonstration is I ask an audience, what are you looking at? And they'll often say it's a checkerboard. And there are two squares on that checkerboard, one labeled A and one labeled B. And then the question is to the audience, are those squares the same color or different colors? Now, especially when there's a poster in the room where people can actually look at it and touch it and kind of examine it close up, it is almost impossible to see those squares as the same color. So they will always see them as different. And yet, squares A and B are precisely the same color. And if I show you how that works, so you look at A and B, keep your eye on A, and then keep your eye on B. You'll see that they're exactly the same color. Now, obviously, because of perspective, because of the shadow that's cast, that's why essentially the white square has become darker because there's a shadow on it, and then becomes the same color as square A. Now, most people will be like, well, why? I don't understand. How is that happening? Well, it's happening because the moment that your brain sees that as a checkerboard, there are certain things that we know that must maintain true about a checkerboard in order that we can deal with it, that we can operate it. And one of those truisms or things that we believe we know about checkerboards is that all the squares must be light, dark, light, dark, light, dark. If they weren't, we wouldn't be able to play chess, we wouldn't be able to play the game, because we wouldn't know what squares were what. So here, all that's happening is that your brain sees what's actually going on. It sees those colours are the same and therefore distorts them for you, so you can still play chess on the checkerboard, so you can still maintain use of it. Now, for you to be able to see those colours as the same, quite often you have to take away the rest of the board. So if you've got your if you can, put your hands on the screen and cover up the other squares, you'll see it's completely obvious that those squares are the same. Otherwise, I'll help you. Just put that on there. So this is where, this is the kind of frightening part of the law of confirmation bias, because once you expect to see something, your brain will twist reality to ensure that that's what you see. So if you believe something is the worst thing that's ever happened to you, it has to be true. And you'll only look at evidence that proves that that's the case. And you won't see the opportunities or the evidence that actually contradicts that belief. And let's say whatever it is that you're trying to achieve in your life, whatever that is, you need to believe that you can have it, so that you can start filtering in the evidence that you can have it, the opportunities. So now we've got three filters that are operating as one system. So we have a set of beliefs that are true in your world, and then we have a filtering system that allows us to focus on certain bits of information and disregard the rest to make things simple. And of those that information that we are processing, that we are allowing in, our brain twists most of it to fit in with those beliefs. The next thing that we need to think about is how these filters and everything else all work together to create what we call and what we know as the self-fulfilling prophecy. So this is often people think that the self-fulfilling prophecy is not scientific, and actually it is scientific. The self-fulfilling prophecy is absolutely scientific. All that happens is because you believe something, you act as if it's true, and your actions will often elicit the very response that you're expecting. Now, there was an experiment done with Dr. Rosenthal and Lenore Jacobson in a school. You might have heard this experiment. All the students in a school were tested, and the research team, they selected just a random number of children, and they told their teachers that these children would be expected to bloom academically in the following year. So they had kind of made out that this, I think it was the Harvard test of inflected acquisition, something like that, something made up test that said that they could predict academic blooming. And so each teacher was given a handful of students' names, and these students were allegedly going to blossom academically in the year to come. So no matter what they'd done before, that next year was going to be their year. And of course, then they re-scored some IQ tests. So they did IQ tests at the beginning, and they did IQ tests at the end of the following year. And surprise, surprise, the children who had been thought or alleged to bloom academically had done. And of course, there was no reason for this other than them telling the teacher that this was going to happen. And they had observed and measured what was happening across that year. And what they noticed was the way the teacher behaved towards those children who were supposed to bloom was completely different to the other children. And in every way actually helped them to achieve more. So they expected more, they called on them more, they were nicer, more rewarding to those students who were supposed to bloom, and also kind of more critical of them. So they would expect more from them and help them to, for example, give a better answer. If they gave a kind of flippant answer, they would draw out a better answer, as opposed to a student they didn't think much of. If giving a less than adequate answer, they would just be like, yeah, okay, great, anyone else? This goes to show that our expectations, especially of other people, but our expectations of life, cause us to behave in a certain way that often elicits that very reaction, that very event that we're expecting. The self-fulfilling prophecy is real and is so important that in order to create a different prophecy, we need to change our expectations, and to do that we need to change our generalizations, our beliefs.